85. That's the big idea.
దానికి కూడా పెట్టింటేనే
Hello, good morning. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Everybody in line? Okay, shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Today we will talk about something about the rupture of the urethra, male urethra. So a small question to anybody. What do we do if the bone breaks or an intestine is cut or any nerve or vessel is cut? So the nature heals them, and what we have to do is just approximate the cut ends. You align the bone, you fix the bone, nature heals the fracture site. Likewise, you anastomose the intestine, you suture the cut ends of the intestine, the nature will heal the ruptured site and makes the continuity of the intestine. Like all these things, of course the urethra, male urethra is after all a tube. If there is any rupture or cut of the urethra, if you approximate the cut ends, if you bring the cut ends closer and retain them in that position, automatically they heal. Automatically it heals. If you do not bring them in close approximation also, they heal after a time, resulting in lot of fibrous tissue. Scar will form there. It is called as stricture of the urethra. The stricture has got lot of fibrous tissue which contracts and narrows the lumen of the urethra, resulting in difficulty in passing urine. If you approximate the cut ends and make them heal by first intention, healing them, there will be little fibrous tissue, little narrowing of the lumen, and there will not be any obstruction to the urinary flow. So this is the principal basis of treating a urethral rupture. Whatever you do, whatever maneuver you do, whatever procedure you do, the aim is the same. You approximate the cut ends of the urethra and bring them closer and retain them as close as possible so that the nature takes care of the healing process. So keeping this in mind, now we will discuss about the rupture of the urethra. The injuries of the urethra can be internal or external. In the olden days, the external injury was more common. Nowadays, the internal injury has become more common. What is this internal injury? So urethra gets damaged from inside, from the mucosal side, because of instrumentation. If an instrument is passed haphazardly without proper technique, you are likely to damage, likely to perforate, likely to cut the urethra at certain fixed points. One is the first angulation of the penile urethra parapubically outside and infrapubically in the pelvis at the bulbar urethra. These are the two common sites where if you push the instrument bluntly, you are likely to cut or damage the urethra. Instrumentation. This can be catheter passing or a cystoscope passing. External injury can damage the urethra, can rupture the urethra at the same points. The first point is blunt injury to the underside of the pelvis, the bulbar urethra. Blunt injury to the perineum will crush the urethral tube between the pubic bone and the insulting agent, resulting in rupture of the bulbar urethra. Second one is pelvic fractures. The membranous urethra is enclosed within the layers of the perineal membranes. When the pelvic bones fracture and get distorted, they move apart, they get separated. They pull on this membranous urethra and rupture it. So the pelvic bone fractures, though they appear to be in close approximation, once we examine at the time of injury, they might have caused a lot of movement. The fragments might have moved apart, tearing the membranous part of the urethra. So these are the two classical sites we see a rupture of the urethra in external injury. One is the bulbar urethra externally, anterior rupture, and membranous urethra internally, the posterior rupture. So types of rupture. Urethra has got mucosa, submucosa, and the muscle covered by the bulbocavernous external muscle also. So different layers are there. The types of rupture of this urethra can be divided into depending on the circumference, whether entire circumference of the tube has been cut or not. So depending on the circumference, the types of rupture can be complete or incomplete. Complete means the rupture is circumferential and two ends have separated. Incomplete means at some place the wall of the urethra is in continuity. That is incomplete. Most often, the roof of the urethra remains intact in incomplete ruptures. Roof of the urethra will be intact in incomplete rupture. That's why whenever we attempt to pass a dilator or catheter in suspected injuries of the urethra, we pass this dilator along the roof of the urethra because that is the most likely part to be not damaged. If the entire circumference is cut, it is called as complete. If part of it cut, one arc or part of it is cut, it is incomplete. Remember, C for C, circumference for complete. Then thickness. If only mucosa is ruptured and muscle is intact, it is called as partial rupture of the urethra. In partial rupture, only mucosa is cut and remaining layers are intact, so urine will not leak out. In partial ruptures, urine will not leak out because other layers are intact. If entire thickness of the urethra is ruptured, it is called as total. Remember, T for T, thickness for total. So if there is total rupture, urine will leak into the layers of the body. So these are the types of the ruptures we see in rupture of the urethra. I already told you, anterior rupture involves the rupture of bulbar urethra. Posterior rupture involves the rupture of membranous urethra. By instrumentation, by injury, any part of the even penile urethra can also get ruptured. But the sites are the bulbar urethra and the membranous urethra. So here you can see these lines are the perineal membrane, superficial perineal membrane, deep perineal membrane. In between these two membranes, there is membranous urethra which has been ruptured completely, totally. Complete means entire circumference, total means full thickness. This is also called as intrapelvic rupture. Outside the perineal membrane, you are seeing rupture of the bulbous urethra, bulbous part of the urethra. This is the typical type of injury damaging the bulbar urethra. A man stepping on one side of the manhole cover, and the manhole cover drifts up and crushes the urethra against his pelvic bones, pubic symphysis or pelvic bones. So, Depending on the common sites, we can divide the rupture of urethra into two parts. Bulbar urethra, where the mechanism is different, the site is different, the management is also different. And membranous urethra, the mechanism of injury is different. It is associated with other injuries, major injuries also. And the method of management is also different. So you can separate them and discuss them separately. We will discuss about the rupture of the bulbar urethra first. There is a history of blow to the perineum, blunt injury to the perineum, or a fall astride injury. Fall astride means a man falls down in standing position, keeping one leg on one side, other leg on the other side of an object. So the object comes and daily strikes on the pelvic bones or the perineum. This is called as fall astride. So in this picture you can see this particular object is striking directly over the perineum of the body. In this type of fall astride injuries, bulbar urethra is crushed upwards onto the pubic bone with bruising or rupture. The examples of fall astride injuries are, in the olden days, the sailing ships falling astride a spar. One man will be climbing a long pole to say the direction to the captain. So he will be at a higher point. If he falls from that onto a wooden spar, he gets injured his urethra. Next, nowadays, workers losing their footing on scaffolding. The building workers, they will be standing on the poles, on scaffoldings, and painting the walls or building the walls at a height. If they slip and fall down, one of these wooden poles will strike his perineum. Cycling accidents, loose manhole covers you have seen, and gymnasium accidents astride the beam. The performer will fall on one of these beams of the gym and injures his urethra. So this is a typical picture, pubic bone, pubic symphysis is there. This is the urethra, and the blunt injury will directly strikes on the urethra, crushes it on the pubic bone. And what happens if the rupture of the urethra occurs? If the rupture is total, the entire thickness of the urethra has ruptured, the urine leaks out. The patient tries to pass urine. Urine leaks out into the layers of the scrotum and perineum. This is called as extravasation of urine. Instead of passing through the urethral tube, the urine comes out of it and fills the perineal spaces and the superficial fascia. Extravasation of urine follows. In this superficial extravasation, which is usually seen after rupture of the bulbar urethra, the fluid, the urine accumulates in the perineum, scrotum, penis, and lower abdominal wall. It does not go into the perianal region because the pollis fascia, the triangular ligament, or the superficial fascia is attached to the membranous layer of the superficial fascia. The superficial perineal membrane is attached to the membranous layer of the superficial fascia at the mid-perineal point. So beyond this point, urine will not go into the lower half of the perineal this space. The perineum will be diamond-shaped space. So into the posterior aspect, urine will not go because of the adherence of these spaces. The extravasated urine collects in the scrotum, penis, and beneath the deep layer of the superficial fascia in the abdominal wall. It extends onto the intra-abdominal wall, not onto the perianal region in the posterior half of the perineum. So here you can see, this is the ruptured bulbar urethra. Urine comes out into the scrotum, penis, etc. It will not go on to the beyond this point. This is the transverse perineal membrane. this collis fascia is getting attached here, urine will not go into the posterior aspect. The same picture, anatomy picture. The clinical features are the signs of a ruptured bulbar urethra are perineal bruising, known as butterfly hematoma. There will be bruising contusion of the scrotum extending onto the perineum in the shape of a butterfly. Second one is bleeding from the urethral meatus. Blood comes out at the external urinary meatus and retention of urine. Patient cannot pass urine. So these are the triad of clinical signs which indicate rupture of the external urethra or anterior urethra or the bulbar urethra. Perineal bruising, bleeding from the meatus and retention of urine. So this is butterfly shape, bruising of the perineum. Blood seen at the meatus. Management of bulbar rupture. If the diagnosis is suspected, so depending on the injury, patient comes with blunt injury to the lower abdomen and pelvis, and there is blood at the meatus, he has not passed urine and hematomas, all these things. Depending on these things, you suspect the rupture of the urethra. What to do in such cases? Give analgesia and antibiotics to the patient. If the patient has not passed urine, ask him to not pass urine. So, patient is discouraged from passing urine. You ask him not pass urine. If he passes urine, urine will collect in the superficial fascia, resulting in superficial extravasation. So, don't make him to do that. And look for the full bladder. Percuss the suprapubic area and see whether the bladder is full or not. If the bladder is full, in such cases, you put a catheter suprapubically. Suprapubic cystostomy to drain the urine must be done to divert the urine from the area of the injury. So suprapubic cystostomy in the olden days is a minor surgical procedure. It has to be done in the theater under anesthesia. Nowadays, this is not necessary. You have got equipment to do it in the emergency department itself. You have a catheter and cannula. Just you put the cannula through the skin directly into the bladder and you can pass the catheter. I will show you that equipment. So this is a very minor procedure, just like putting a cannula intravenously. You can put a suprapubic catheter in the casualty itself. So you do that and divert the urine from the area of the injury. This is the primary thing you have to do. Once the patient is fit for investigations, then you shift him and do the necessary investigations to prove or to disprove or to locate the injury to the urethra. So the investigation that is most commonly needed is retrograde urethrogram, RGU, retrograde urethrogram, using water-soluble contrast medium. Water-soluble contrast medium has to be used. And by the time you see the patient has passed urine. He says, I already has passed urine, and you examine for the extravasation. If there is no extravasation, that means the rupture of the urethra is partial. So entire thickness has not been ruptured, only mucosa is ruptured. Still in such case also, you see the blood at the meatus and you see the retention of urine. Because there is no extravasation after passing urine, you assume that it is partial rupture. You send the patient for urethrophy with water-soluble contrast. In such types of cases where it is partial and no extravasation, there is no need for suprapubic catheter. You can give the patient antibiotic and analgesic and encourage him to pass urine freely after confirming the diagnosis by urethrophy. If there is extravasation, you have to treat the extravasation separately, and we will discuss it later. Coming to the repair. So the RGU, retrograde ureterogram, has shown you that there is a site of urethral rupture at the bulbar urethra. And patient is having retention of urine, which has been diverted by putting a suprapubic catheter, and a perineal hematoma is there. What to do in such situations? So the optimal treatment is anastomotic urethroplasty. Already I told you, whenever the urethra is ruptured, just like the bone, just like the intestine, just like the ureter, just like any other tube, vessel, artery, vein, you approximate the urethra also. That's the treatment of choice. So previously they used to say immediate surgery has to be done, exploration has to be done in the perineum. The cut ends of the urethra are identified and they are sutured by spatulation. Urethra is sutured by spatulation to prevent the stricture formation. And nowadays they say delayed anastomotic urethroplasty is the treatment of choice. How much delay? 8 to 12 weeks. This is to allow the perineal hematoma to get resolved. Perineal hematoma to get resolved and make the patient fit for surgery, give some antibiotics, investigate the patient. If there are any other injuries, treat the other injuries. Then in the last, you come to the attention of the urethra. Anyway, you have put a suprapubic catheter, patient will be passing urine through that catheter, no problem, and treat all the other conditions. In the last, you come to the urethra. After 8 to 12 weeks, where by then edema and hematoma has resolved in the perineum. So you expose these urethral ends, spatulate them, and do end-to-end anastomosis of the urethra. So you split the urethra longitudinally, make them into a ribbon like, just suture the ribbon and put a catheter. So at this site, there are chances of stricture development. If you spatulate and anastomose the urethra, the incidence of stricture formation will be less. So this is repair by spatulation. These two are the tubes which have been isolated. You split them longitudinally, make them into a ribbon like, and anastomose the ends with simple suturing. So this part, diamond part, will be open, and you put a catheter along the urethra. So a little amount of urine will be leaking at this place. Continue when the patient passes urine. So within no time, within few days, this urine leakage will stop, and this will heal widely by fibrous tissue. So the chances of stricture formation are less if you anastomose the urethra by spatulation. So coming to the summary, suspect urethral injury by blunt perineal trauma when man cannot void when there is perineal bruising and blood is seen at the urethral meatus. The safest management is to insert a suprapubic catheter and divert the urine. Beware of urinary extravasation sepsis in the perineal hematoma. So the sepsis is always a problem in perineal hematomas, and if the infection settles in the urinary tract, there are chances that patient may go in for septicemia. So you must be very careful and give good broad spectrum antibiotics, divert the urine. Delayed erythroplasty is the preferred definitive management of complete disruptions. Then coming to the other type of rupture, that is membranous urethral rupture. Here, along with the rupture of the urethra, so many other injuries are there. So the person has suffered a major injury to the lower abdomen and pelvis, resulting in fracture of the bones, pelvic bones. So rupture of the pelvic bones indicate the accident or the hit is a major one. The impact, the force of the impact was major one. So there are chances of other major injuries, intra-abdominal injuries, vascular injuries, kidney injuries, fracture of the long bone. So many things will be there. Along these things, one of the injuries is injury to the urethra also. So other injuries, they take precedence of management because they are more dangerous than the rupture of the simple rupture of the urethra. So in such cases, examine the patient for other major injuries and stabilize him and resuscitate him first. You resuscitate the patient, you control the bleedings, you stabilize the pelvis, you treat the fracture of long bones. If there are any visceral injuries like intestine, bladder, etc., you attend to them. And meanwhile, you just keep a suprapubic catheter to drain the urine. When everything is okay, patient is fit, all other injuries are cured, then you think of the repair of the membranous urethra. That is the first point. It is associated with other major injuries which take precedence of management. First point. Second point is it may be associated with extraperitoneal rupture of the bladder. Along with the membranous urethra, the bladder wall also has been breached. In such cases, urine will be continuously leaking into the retropubic space and retroperitoneum. So in such cases, it needs immediate repair. So you have to do the open surgery, isolate the bladder, repair the bladder first. Then you may think of the membranous urethral rupture. That's the second point. Think of the bladder, injury of the bladder, try to treat it first. That's the second point. Third point is it is associated with injury or damage to the continent mechanism. This is the most important thing. Continence of the urethra depends on the voluntary or skeletal muscle, external sphincter, which surrounds the membranous urethra. So if it is damaged and has become incompetent, then the competence depends only on the neck of the bladder. The internal sphincter, the neck of the bladder has to maintain the continence. So there is every chance of injury of this superficial sphincter, external sphincter at the time of injury, or if you attempt surgical repair, at the time of surgery also, you may further damage the external sphincter. So that is one you have to remember. So the external sphincter may be further damaged while repairing the membranous urethra. Then the fourth one is repair of the membranous urethra and injury to the membranous urethra. So the difference in bulbar rupture and membranous rupture is bulbar rupture is forward. Urethra is ruptured, you open it and you repair the urethra, that's all. Whereas membranous urethra, extra things are many extra things are there. Major injuries are there, bladder injury is there, continent mechanism is there. Lastly, you have to do the repair of the membranous urethra. So that is the difference between these two things. Rupture of the membranous urethra is typically associated with fracture of the pelvis. It may be associated with extraperitoneal rupture of the bladder also. A tear in the membranous urethra may be partial, but typically it is complete. Entire circumference of the membranous urethra is ruptured. A two ends are completely displaced with an interposing hematoma. Another anatomical point you have to remember here is the prostate, which surrounds the prostatic part of the urethra, is fixed by two ligaments called as puboprostatic ligaments, which attach the prostate to the inner side of the pubic bone. If these ligaments are also ruptured, the bladder along with the prostate moves upwards. It floats, called as floating of the prostate gland. The distance between the two cut ends will be very great. The bladder and the prostate has moved up, separating the cut ends very far away. In such cases, it is difficult to bring them again. That also has to be remembered. Usually, it is typically complete. Two ends will be displaced with interposing hematoma. 5% of cases of fractured pelvis are associated with urethral injury. It is almost universally seen in men. So, male person's urethra is very long and curved. Too many curvatures are there. So, the most common is rupture. In woman, a short urethra always escapes. Even the woman has got fracture of the pelvic bones, urethra usually escapes. Clinical features are similar. Most common cause of pelvic fractures are road traffic accidents, severe crush injuries, and falls from heights. There will be multiple associations. Under these circumstances, management of other injuries takes precedence because they are life-ending injuries.
Number 135. Turn off your mic. Rahul Reddy, turn off your mic.
Almost there will be blood at and when you do similar, there will be retention. This is called as Vermeuten's sign. When you do the parietal examination, you cannot reach, you cannot feel the prostate because it is floating high up. And ureterogram with water soluble contrast media is confirmatory of the injury to the membranous urethra. You can see the puboprostatic ligament is torn here, and the bladder and prostate has moved up. So the cut ends of the urethra, both urethra are separated very far. This is deep extravasation. Extravasation in the retropubic space of Regius and the extrapyramidal space. The ureterogram is showing this is bulbar urethra, the cone of the bulb, membranous urethra has ruptured, leading to extravasation of the contrast material here. You can see fracture of the pelvic bone. This is the kit for doing the suprapubic puncture cystostomy in the casualty itself. So this is the trocar and cannula. This is half open. Under local anesthesia, you put this cannula into the trocar and into the bladder. Remove the trocar. Through this cannula, you can insert the Foley's catheter into the bladder and pull this out. Very simple procedure. Similar to putting a cannula in a vein. This has become very easy with this instrument. Coming to the management. As soon as possible, as soon as practicable, insert a suprapubic catheter in the bladder. Sometimes this will be easy. When the bladder is full, When the puboprostatic ligaments are intact, you can locate, you can feel the distended bladder in the suprapubic region. Directly insert the catheter inside. Sometimes there will be hematoma in the lower abdominal wall. The prostatic ligament is ruptured and floating prostate is there. Bladder will be deep inside. In such cases, it is difficult to put a catheter in the bladder. Then you take the help of the ultrasound. With the ultrasound guidance, you can put a catheter in the bladder. If this is successful, for the time being, the treatment is over for rupture of the membranous urethra. Patient will be passing urine through the catheter. To take care of all other remaining injuries, in the last, you can attend to the rupture of the urethra. So managing the rupture of membranous urethra, for time being it is simple. The problem is to put a catheter in the bladder and to drain the bladder. In the later on, when all the other injuries are treated, we can repair the membranous urethra. And if the bladder is not distended, bladder is not palpable, and ultrasound shows the bladder is collapsed, in such cases you have to suspect the extraperitoneal rupture of the bladder. The second injury is extraperitoneal rupture of the bladder. So there is no question of conservative management here. You have to take the patient to the theater, open up, the bladder is identified, the rent in the bladder is closed, and a suprapubic catheter is kept. So it needs surgical management, immediate surgical management. Surgical exploration should be done, bladder is repaired, and suprapubic catheter is placed. The remaining membranous urethra is taken care of later on. The earlier methods of treatment. So in the previous days, the principle is somehow you approximate the cut ends of the urethra, membranous urethra also, retain them in the position so that the healing will take place. How to bring these two things into opposition? That is, you pass a catheter, you manipulate a catheter from the distal end into the bladder. Somehow you do this SPC, you open up the bladder, put your finger from above, put your dilator from above, and isolate the proximal end, and pass the catheter from below, isolate the distal end through an open perineal wound, then try to pass the catheter into the bladder. If you can pass the catheter into the bladder and apply some traction to the bladder, traction to the catheter, so that the prostate, proximal urethra and distal urethra are approximated. Maintain this for some time in the hope that the fibrosis will attach these two cut ends and make them heal. So that is the principle of the treatment in olden days. Realignment of the ends. Realignment of the ends. You bring them closer and realign them, they will heal. There are two schools of thought, Michel's school and Blandy's school. Michel's school says delayed repair after 3 weeks. Blandy's school says early intervention. After 2 or 3 days, when the patient is stabilized, then you take up the surgery. So you open the bladder while doing the suprapubic cystostomy and ascertain the position of the prostate. That is important. If the prostate is in the same anatomical position, not floating, with the help of the cystoscope or something, you try to pass the catheter from the distal end into the bladder. If this is not accomplished, you open the perineum and under naked vision identify the ends of the urethra and pass the catheter from the urethra into the bladder. That should be done. If the prostate is floating and high up, then you may have to do what is called as railroad technique. Railroad technique means you pass a dilator from the bladder from above, you pass a dilator from below. In the perineum, in the perineal wound, both will come and touch each other. Then you gently pass the dilator from the bladder into the distal part. Then pass a thread or some guide wire, etc. along the urethra. Using the help of this guide wire, you can thread a catheter into the bladder. So all this maneuver, all these tricks has been done only to realign the cut ends of the urethra. This is railroad technique. Two dilators are passed, one from below, one from above. They met in the perineal wound, and gently you pass this. Distal dilator is passed into the bladder, and a thread is tied to that, and it is pulled. Now the thread is passing through both ends of the urethra. With the help of the thread, you tie this thread to the catheter, again pull it into the bladder. So you are passing the catheter along the cut ends of the urethra and put some traction so that these cut ends are approximated and realigned so that they heal, they attach with each other. So these are the olden method of realigning the cut ends of the urethra and treating them. Nowadays, all these things are not done. The principle of repair is delayed repair of disruption 3 to 6 months later. You put the suprapubic catheter, drain the bladder, that's all. Wait for 6 months, when all other wounds are healed. Then you explore the perineum. Explore the perineum, excise all the fibrous tissue, try to approximate the this one, cut ends of the urethra. Try to approximate the urethra. If a stricture has been formed and you cannot close the urethra, there are so many other means of repairing this, dilating this urethra. You can put a skin flap, you can put a buccal mucosal flap. So many things are available to approximate these cut ends of the urethras. So nowadays the principle is initial SPC followed by delayed repair of disruption 3 to 6 months later. 3 to 6 months later. So why we should not repair them immediately? Why we should delay it so much? What is the difference between early repair and delayed repair? Why we should delay? Because in early repair, we try to realign the urethral ends endoscopically or using the buoys. In these things, you are meddling with the hematoma. You are meddling with the injured tissues. So there is increased risk of sepsis. Increased risk of sepsis is there, and more chances of forming a tight stricture. Already the tissues are injured, and you are further increasing the injury to the tissues, damaging the tissues locally. So more tight stricture will form. And the most important thing is the incontinence and erectile dysfunction. Already these two mechanisms are damaged. By meddling with these damaged tissues before they recover, we are further damaging these two things. So this is the danger of meddling early. So they have stopped the early repair and waited for some time. And after 3 to 6 months, when all the tissue edema has come down, and when the tissues can be identified easily, the anatomical structures can be identified easily. At that time, try to make an attempt to repair. So the present trend of treating posterior rupture of urethra is delayed repair of disruption of 3 to 6 months later. Complications. Complications of rupture of the urethra. First one is urethral disruption injury. In this type of complication, the two ends of torn urethra are separated by a hematoma. So in between the two cut ends of the urethra, hematoma will form, blood clot will form. With time, this gets replaced by fibrosis. So during delayed surgical reconstruction, you have to excise all these fibrous tissue. Again, identify the two cut ends which are far apart and try to bring them close together. So sometimes there may be difficulty in approximating these two cut ends. The part of the urethra has been lost, so there may be difficulty to approximate the cut end. That is the only problem with the urethral disruption injuries. Second, early repair, delayed repair, we have discussed. So nowadays, delayed repair is preferred to avoid the complications of sepsis, stricture formation, and incontinence. Second complication is urinary incontinence. As the external sphincter is already damaged during injury to the membranous urethra, the continence depend on bladder neck mechanism. So we discussed of the two sphincters in the bladder. One is external, which is a voluntary sphincter, which gives the continent mechanism. Whereas the bladder neck
Number 52 Turner Fermi. Number 50.
the bladder neck internal sphincter is mainly a genital sphincter, and partly it adds to the continence mechanism. Now, because the external sphincter is already lost, the total continence of the urine depends on the bladder neck mechanism only. So it takes care of it. No problem, it takes care of it, but in 5 to 10% of the men suffer urinary incontinence, stress incontinence. So with normal pressure, normal bladder pressures, the bladder neck can take care of the continence. If the man sneezes or coughs and raises intra-abdominal pressure, then there will be leak of the urine. So this stress urinary incontinence is more commonly seen in women because of during delivery the pelvic muscles, perineal muscles are damaged. But in men, when the voluntary sphincter is lost, the bladder neck cannot compensate totally for it. So men suffer stress incontinence in such conditions. Second thing is, if such a person has to undergo prostatectomy in the future, so you are damaging the internal sphincter also, he lands up with total urinary incontinence. So you must be careful before doing prostatectomy or incising the bladder neck in such persons. He will become totally incontinent. Third complication is erectile dysfunction. During the time, at the time of injury, the nerves, cavernosal nerves will be damaged and pineal arteries will be damaged. So the person suffers erectile dysfunction. This can happen at the time of surgery or during surgical treatment also. So the cause may be the trauma as well as surgical treatment. So if you meddle in the early stages when the tissues are edematous and you are imposing more damage to the tissues, the complication is likely to arise in such situations. So you have to wait and do the surgery carefully afterwards. So if the person, of course, develops erectile dysfunction, it has to be treated with sildenafil. If this is not effective, then you may have to go for other means like intracavernosal prostaglandin injections or a vacuum device implantation or a penile implantation to be planned. Then extravasation of period. So this means the urine is leaking out of the urethra and getting collected in the tissues of the body. So this is of two types. One is superficial extravasation. Another one is deep extravasation. So this extravasation happens with extraperitoneal bladder and pelvic fracture urethral disruption. This is deep extravasation occurs. We will discuss it later. Okay. Superficial extravasation. This is seen in rupture of the bulbar urethra and ruptured periurethral abscess. So apart from trauma, the rupture of periurethral abscess or the opening of periurethral abscess also will lead to urinary leak into the tissues, resulting in superficial extravasation, where the urine collects in the anterior half of the perineum subcutaneously, scrotum, around the penis, and in the suprapubic region because of attachments of the fistulas. So what to do with this? Once the primary condition where which is leaking urine is treated, then this collection can be drained by giving multiple incisions in the perineum and scrotum. You give multiple incisions so that all this collected urine comes out and the tissues will heal. And at the same time, you have to control the leaking problem. So you take care of the ruptured urethra by either repairing it or by diverting urine from the suprapubic areas, or by what is called as repaired sutureless method of growth of flow. This is nothing but you open the perineum at the site of the injury, expose two currents, and pass the catheter and keep the wound open. Don't suture because the urethral wall is so edematous it cut through. So don't do anything, just expose it, pass the catheter, and pack the wound. So that will heal after some time. Leaking of urine will be controlled. Without suturing, the curtains gets approximately fibrous tissue, resulting in a stricture which can be dilated later. This is called as sutureless repair of Rutherford for the ruptured urethra. That can be done. Deep extravasation. Here you can see. So in superficial extravasation, the urine will be here in this plane, but here it is in the deeper plane, in the retropubic space of edges, around the prostate, and in the retroperitoneum, anterior to the denone-medius fascia, which is attached to the rectum. So in between the rectum and the bladder, collection will be there. Around the prostate, the collection will be there. Retropubic space collection. It extends, of course, in the anterodermal wall. This is deep extravasation. This is seen in cases of extraperitoneal rupture of the bladder by some reason, trauma or some procedure on the bladder, like excision of the bladder tumor, etc., by endoscopic means, or by putting a rough catheter roughly, or passing boozy roughly to the bladder, etc. This can happen, rupture of the bladder. Intrapelvic rupture of the urethra. So that is equivalent of the rupture of membranous urethra, intrapelvic rupture. Suprapubic puncture of the bladder. So for some reason, patient comes with retention of urine. In the emergency ward, in the casualty, you aspirate the bladder and remove the needle. Again, the bladder refills. So then, through this puncture, the urine slowly leaks into the extraperitoneal space and causes deep extravasation. That's why, if you aspirate the bladder, you must relieve the obstruction before the bladder refills again. Otherwise, if you think you cannot correct the problem that fast, it is better to put a suprapubic catheter rather than a simple aspiration. The rupture or perforation of the ureter. So the lower end of the ureter is ruptured or perforated by surgery or by trauma or by passing ureteral catheter. This also can lead to deep extravasation. Damage to the bladder or prostate during TU or P, transurethral resection of the prostate. If you go too deep, you may open the urethra, and which will lead to deep extravasation. Some causes of deep extravasation. Treatment is treatment of the cause. The bladder is ruptured, you repair the bladder. The ureter is ruptured, you repair the ureter or divert the urine. Membranous urethra, you divert the urine. To drain this space of HGS, after treating the cause of the condition, then you drain the space of retropubic space of HGS so that all urine comes out and the inflammation comes back. Coming to summary of the pelvic fracture rhythm disruption injury, suspect diagnosis in case of pelvic fracture. The patient has not voided and when there is blood at the urethra, this is very important sign. Seeing blood at the urinary vein, external urinary veins, you must always suspect some urethral injury. And the patient is fit, we send him for water soluble erythrogram, which will confirm the diagnosis. The initial management is nowadays is simple. Insertion of a suprapubic catheter. To drain the urine, the insertion of catheter suprapubically, then temporarily the treatment is over. To take care of other injuries, make the patient fit, confirm the diagnosis in the erythrogram, and wait for some time. Afterwards, we treat it. Surgical exploration needed if there is coexistence of the bladder. The only indication for immediate exploration is rupture of the bladder. Bladder is not getting filled up. Ultrasound shows deep exploration and a rupture in the bladder wall. In such cases, you have to go for immediate exploration. Main treatment is delayed anastomotic erythroplasty is the preferred definitive management. Delayed anastomotic erythroplasty. You have anastomose the contents of the urethra, which is done at a later date. So, delayed anastomotic erythroplasty is the preferred definitive management to avoid the surgery-related complications of like incontinence, like erectile dysfunction. So, in the acute stage, the tissue should be edematous, confused, lot of blood will be there. So, it is difficult to identify what structure you are dealing with. Whether it is muscle, whether it is urethra, whether it is artery, vein, different identities. So, don't meddle with the tissues early. To divert the urine, wait for some time. When the urine has come down, the anatomical status has recovered and become identifiable. At that time, to plan for elective surgery, the results will be good with less incidence of complications. Thank you. Any queries you can ask. Any doubts you can ask. There are no doubts. Stop at this point. Thank you. Yes.